We are going to begin with Chapter 1, and I'm going to, at the beginning of every chapter, give you an overview of the topics, the concepts, and the scenarios that we're going to work with. In Chapter 1, you are just getting to know the environment. You're working with Greenfoot. You're being introduced to Object-Oriented Programming, OOP, interacting with the objects on the screen. You're going to be doing a lot of calling methods and looking at what methods are. You're going to look at what an object is. You're going to look at classes. You're going to look at method calls and method signatures. You will look at how parameters affect a method. There will be return values from methods. There will be different types of methods, a void method, command methods, and methods that are what we would consider question methods. And you're also going to be introduced to data types, such as integers and booleans. There are two scenarios that we are going to work with. Leaves and wombats is one of them, and asteroids is the other. They both introduce you to object-oriented concepts and the Greenfoot environment. Asteroids is when you're going to get to do some editing of source code, and that way you will be changing some behaviors on the screen. I'm going to toggle to the Leaves and Wombats folder. As we set up, you have a CSP Fall 2016 folder, and inside there you have the scenarios. One way that you can open the scenarios is to double-click on the folders. Go into your lab folder, not your original. Go to Chapter 1 and Leaves and Wombats. And in order to start the project, you want to double-click on this green Project Greenfoot icon. That's the Greenfoot project. I am not going to do that right now because I've already opened it up and there is a lag because I have so many things open. The cache on my machine cannot keep up very well right now. And so I'm going to go ahead and just go to that project. But that's one way that you can open a scenario. So if you go through the folder levels, the thing to remember is to double click on this Greenfoot, and that will open up the scenario. Now, one of those scenarios, or this is what the scenario looks like when you first get to it. There are no objects over here. I will attempt to place an object on the screen, but it might blow up on me because of the lag. If I right click, I can create a new wombat, and there are instructions on how to do this in your textbook. I am not going to step through all of these instructions. I'm just kind of giving you an overview. And you get a new wombat, you can place the wombat in the world. And the textbook will tell you how to step through all that. Once you get a wombat world set up, and you have several wombats and several leaves, the wombats eat the leaves. And if I run this just to simulate it real quick, you can see that the wombats are following each other and they are eating leaves. And if I pause it and I right click on a wombat, again, because of the lag, I might get an error message, but we will see. You can get information about the wombat. For example, as this wombat went around, how many leaves did this wombat eat? How many moves did the wombat make? And it is not cooperating with me right now. I'm going to try that one more time. Right click. If I right click and try to get the number of leaves that the wombat has eaten. Okay, once I right clicked, I can get leaves eaten. And it should come up with a dialog box that shows you some of the information on that wombat. That particular wombat ate 3 leaves. If I bring that screen back up, it ate 3 leaves. So the wombat scenario is one scenario that you're going to work with. The other way to open a scenario, as long as I'm on this screen, is you can go up here to Scenario. You can open, and then you will work your way back through the folder. We saved it inside the book scenarios, Chapter 1, and you can just open up Leaves and Wombats here. Again, I'm not going to do that right now because of the lag, but that's another way that you can open a scenario. The last scenario that you're going to work with is a rockets and asteroids. I'm going to run this right now just to show you what it might look like. There is some part of a lag, so it's not going to work very well, and we might get an error message. But you have rockets and you have asteroids, and you're going to attempt to hit the rockets. And there is some sound, and the asteroids will destroy the rockets. If it's possible, I might just try to show you an explosion. You could pause the screen and you can get information from these objects, and then you can also move the objects. So you can see what happens when a rocket hits the asteroid. So those are the two scenarios that you're going to be working with. If I go back to our PowerPoint slide, let's see what we've got. We talked about the scenarios and the asteroids, and we covered all of these things. The last thing that I want to show you is those of you that are working with the worksheets, I would recommend when you pull up or start to work with the worksheets that you read through the worksheet first, and then you go and work the exercises in the textbook, and then come back here and fill in what's expected on the worksheet. If you read the worksheet first, that will give you some idea of what to look for, and it will also give you some idea of what you're expected to be recording. So read the worksheet, then do the exercises in the book, and then come back and record on the worksheet. The last page of the worksheet is basically a notes page for you to take notes as you go through the chapter. It's going to take notes on what's an integer, what's a Boolean, what's a method signature, what's a question method, etc. So you can have those items defined by the time that you get done working with the first chapter. Your instructor might not have you be doing or using the worksheets. That would just be up to them. But if you are, I would recommend that you read them first before you start working with the scenarios. That should wrap up our overview of Chapter 1. So good luck, and don't forget to ask lots of questions along the way.